You're in a crowded farmer's market. Sun on your shoulders, weekend smiles everywhere. Suddenly, your phone rings. Your teenage daughter is crying, panicked, and says she's been cornered by 6 old women calling her unchristian. You sprint across the market, only to find your child trembling while strangers spit judgment in her face, all because your ex-mother-in-law sent them. And she had no idea that by the next week, her entire church community will be holding a binder. Yes, a binder, full of her family's darkest secrets. If you've ever had someone try to ruin your peace, gaslight your family, or weaponize religion against you, this story is going to hit hard. And if you've ever wished karma moved a little faster, well, today, you'll see what it looks like when justice shows up early. Let's get into one of the most brutal and satisfying church-level revenge stories you'll ever hear. Full narrative expansion. The setup, a year of lost and shattered truths. I never imagined my life would unravel the way it did. At 4 to 6, I thought the worst was behind me. My daughters, 17 and 15, were growing into these incredible young women, smart, compassionate, resilient. We were a team, a tiny family, but a strong one. Then my husband, my ex-husband pending, technically died in an accident. The grief was confusing, heavy, but mixed with a bitterness I didn't know how to name. Because in the months before the accident, my daughters had discovered the truth I never expected. He'd been cheating. And not some fleeting affair. No, he had fathered 2 sons with another woman. And to twist the knife even deeper, that woman had died too. Her boys were left orphaned. Everything spiraled after that. The betrayal, the divorce proceedings, the emotional fallout for my daughters. And then the biggest blow, learning that my in-laws, in their late 70s and 80s, had known about everything. They'd supported the cheating, covered it up, blamed my daughters for telling me, even tried to guilt them into accepting their father's affair babies as siblings. And when my ex died, they wanted more. First, they tried to get custody of my daughters. Then, they tried to move in with us, as though we owed them sanctuary after years of lies. I refused both. I protected my children, and that protection somehow made me their enemy. A quiet market day turns into a nightmare. Months later, things had calmed a little. Therapy was helping the girls sort their trauma. We were rebuilding our little life. On a warm weekend, my youngest had her birthday coming up. We headed to the local farmer's market. Fresh eggs, warm breads, the smell of honey and sunflowers. She had her birthday budget and was practically glowing with excitement about buying chocolates, baked sweets, anything sugary. An hour passed, then 90 minutes. I brushed off the rising anxiety, the faint tightening behind my ribs. She always got distracted at markets. But just as I pulled out my phone to call her, it rang. And Mom, her voice cracked. Breathless, trembling. Some women, these weird church ladies, they won't let me go. The world stopped. My oldest heard it too and was already grabbing her bag. We ran, down the aisle past the flower vendors, weaving through the crowd, past a man holding jars of jam. My heart hammered so loudly I thought people could hear it. Every terrible fear a mother can imagine flashed through me in sharp bursts. When we found her, she was backed against a table pile with homemade soaps, tear-streaked, hands shaking, and surrounding her, 6 older women, hair permed, crossed necklaces gleaming like badges, their faces twisted in righteous indignation. One of them pointed a bony finger at my daughter and barked, "You should be ashamed. Turning your back on your grandparents like that is a sin." Another chimed in, "And refusing to help your poor baby brothers, boys who lost everything." My daughter tried to shrink into herself, each word a blow. They didn't know, didn't care, that those babies represented one of the worst betrayals of her life. They kept talking over each other, their words sharp and acidic. Ungrateful child. Unchristian behavior. This is what happens when girls aren't raised to respect family. I stepped between them so fast one woman stumbled back. My voice was low, shaking with fury I held in only for my daughter's sake. "Move! Aside!" My oldest was already collecting the items her sister had picked out, heading toward the cashier with that protective determination only an older sibling could have. Meanwhile, the women turned their attention to me, like vultures who just spotted fresh meat. One coolie spat, "A wife owes obedience to her husband's parents. That's scripture." Another added, "This is exactly why your daughters are turning out so poorly. They learn from you." I inhaled through my teeth. A slow, dangerous breath. Their smug faces. Their accusatory eyes. The way my youngest clung to my arm, silently begging to leave. It snapped something inside me. I let them have every ounce of the fury I had been holding for months. Years. The market manager eventually intervened. The yelling had grown too loud, too attention-grabbing. They asked us all to leave, but the women wouldn't stop. They followed us through the parking lot, calling after us like shadowy disciples of spite. As soon as the car door shut, my youngest burst into sobs so deep it made my own chest ache. I drove away shaking. This wasn't random. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone sent those women, and there was only one person in the world who fit that profile like a glove. The church's lies, a sob story built on manipulation. After I got the girls home, gave them dinner, checked on them, reassured them, I went online. There was one person from that church, just one, who still treated me with basic human decency. I messaged him, and when he replied, everything snapped into focus. My ex-mother-in-law had launched a massive pity-party campaign in her church's Facebook group. According to her, I was shutting them out. I was leaving them homeless and penniless. I was denying them access to their granddaughters. I was the reason they lost their orphan grandsons. I had refused to care for the babies. The other woman hadn't been an affair partner, but a surrogate, and I had rejected the boys because they were not girls. The absurdity made my stomach churn. She had rewritten the entire story, turned lies into scripture, weaponized her church's sympathy, and unleashed these women on my daughters. My hands trembled, not with fear, not with grief, with purpose, because finally, I knew what I had to do. The turning point, the decision that changed everything. My daughters were asleep. The house was quiet, and I sat at our dining table, lit only by a small lamp, staring at the folder on my laptop labeled divorce evidence. Months of secrets, screenshots, emails, photos, messages, conversations, proof of everything my in-laws pretended didn't exist. Proof that the woman they were demonizing, my daughter, had been a child forced into the role of truth-bearer. Proof that the affair partner had been a fully consenting adult, not some imaginary surrogate. Proof that my ex-in-laws had called my girls bastards mere days after their father's death. And proof that they had encouraged their sons' cheating. My daughters had been emotionally battered, gaslit, abused. They deserved peace. My hands steadied. I opened every file, and I printed everything. The preparation, the binders of truth. The next morning, I had the day off work. I drove straight to a print shop, paid extra for flawless, high-resolution copies. Pictures of my ex with the affair partner, text messages between them, screenshots of his parents acknowledging everything, emails where my in-laws berated me for wanting a divorce, messages where they blamed my daughters for his death. 3 hours later, I carried a stack of papers that could shatter a false reputation in a heartbeat, and then I made binders. Not plain binders, theatrical ones, the kind that looked just like the churches in packets. Clean, white, innocent, filled with decorated dividers, personalized covers, and on the very first page of the binder, a glossy 8x10 photo of my ex passionately making out with the affair partner in our living room. Underneath it, the true love story of ex's name and affair partner's name. The contrast between the scandalous photo and the churchy packaging was poetic. My hands moved with a calm I hadn't felt in months. Almost meditative. For once, I wasn't reacting. I wasn't scrambling. I wasn't defending. I was delivering truth. Cold, undeniable, public. Sunday morning, before dawn, I walked into the church my in-laws had always idolized, slowly, deliberately, and placed the binders neatly on the back table where in packets usually Saturday. No one checks them. They are just picked up